going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Sanity Symphony Podcast, here with your host, Official Insanity. And I'm here joined with my guest, Jersey City Jeff. Say what's up.
What's going on, everyone? How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Jeff, go ahead and just give yourself a little introduction to the viewers who don't know about you and just a little bit on your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jeff. I am a digital community manager, and there's a lot that goes into that. But basically, I help brands and companies to build meaningful and authentic relationships with their customers. I've been doing this work for about 13 years now. I've had the privilege of working with a lot of cool companies along the way. Most of my time has been spent in the tech space. But Anthony, as you know, I used to work at SiriusXM back in 2015. I left the company in 2017, which is also when I left Jersey. I'm originally from Jersey, born in Manhattan, raised in Jersey City, left Jersey in 2017, was living in Austin, Texas for a few years and relocated to St. Petersburg, Florida around the end of 2020, beginning of 21. And that's where I'm based now.
Nice, man. And
Yeah.
could you speak on like how you were able to get your foot into SiriusXM? Because like as you know, like wanting to work for a company like that, it's a very competitive world, and there are
Yeah.
some people who don't know where to start as far as getting their foot in or just getting known within the company. So how were you able to get known?
Yeah, so I would say that my beginnings at Sirius was just very I want to say it was partially organic just from, simply applying myself. But at that point in my career, I had already been working as a community manager for about 3 or so years. And so here's the part where I tell you about what it means to be a community manager, because a lot of my career has been spent at the intersection of social media management and community management. And while the two are similar, they're not one and the same. They share a lot of synergies, but they are designed for two mutually exclusive purposes. So during my time at SiriusXM, I was a social media coordinator. And prior to working there, I had worked in community management and social media management for a couple of companies. I started working in the education technology space um, for a company called 2U that helps universities to deliver their master's degree programs online. So I was the community manager for the Masters of Arts in Teaching at USC. And then from there, I started working at a snack food subscription service company called Graze. So it kind of works like Netflix, right? Like you create an account, you make selections, tell them what your preferences are in terms of what you like to snack on, and they put you on a plan, whether it be like every week or every other week, once a month, where they'll send you a box of portion controlled snacks in the mail. And it's kind of marketed as a healthier alternative to having a bag of chips if you're like on the go. So anyway, having, done a few years of work in that space, was just looking for a new opportunity, applied to SiriusXM, and I was able to get my foot in the door as a social media coordinator on their listener care team. So the primary function of my team was to support listeners in whatever sort of support requests they might have had. A lot of it was, folks listening to SiriusXM in their cars, and maybe their radio signal needed to be reset, things like that. But then additionally, we would also capture the voice of the listener community and share that with stakeholders internally in the company. So, for example, let's say if somebody heard a new segment on Control Alt Destroy, and they're like, I wasn't really a fan of that one, and they decided to go on Twitter or X or whatever, and post about it, or comment about it, that would be something that my team would capture, and we, we'd share that feedback either with our editorial teams, social media editorial teams, or directly with the Shade 45 team, however we had it set up at the time.
While at the time when you were working at Sirius, could you provide insights on maintaining a healthy mindset while networking and dealing with rejection and building confidence throughout your interactions?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when it comes to networking and building relationships, whether it be during my time at Sirius or just in general throughout my entire career, I think the number one thing you have to remember when you're networking, before you even start to focus your energies on thoughts of rejection or anything like that, is, understand why you're networking to begin with. And there should, number one, there should be a goal in mind, and that goal should be a priority, but it shouldn't be a priority to the extent that you're networking in a very transactional kind of way, if that makes any sense. When you're networking with people, you need to understand that you're there to establish connections and build relationships. And that doesn't just mean that you're there to, shake hands and kiss babies, or let me get a picture with this one, or let me get a picture with that one, simply because you want to stunt on the gram or whatever it is that you're trying to do. If you're looking for a come up, or you're clout chasing in any kind of way, then people are going to be able to discern that about you very easily. So my biggest piece of advice would be to have your goals in mind and know what you're working towards and be passionate about that, but lead with being of service to others, and lead with being a human being before you go seeking out opportunities. I think a lot of it should really be centered around seeking out a mentor, and that doesn't have to be mentorship in a super duper official kind of way. It could be something as simple as, I mean, look at how often you and I both call in to Sway and into Destroy's show, right? And just the fact that those great individuals hold space for us to not only hear us out but also drop gems. I think it's part of the reason why you and I are both where we are today, right? Is because we appreciate that love, and we take the advice that they give not only to us but to their entire listener community, in terms of how they should move forward. How should they be branding themselves? How should they be going about working towards their passions? So I think when you keep all of those things at the forefront of your mind, you're able to navigate the networking space in a much more meaningful way.
I couldn't have worded it even better, honestly. Like that's exactly how I looked at it as well. The way you explain it is like everything that you see that I've been displaying on social media is everything that I've taken in and learned from the advice that Sway and his team and Destroy and his team and everyone else from Sirius that I've like either wrote down or remembered from listening from old recordings and just either
Yeah.
repeating them to myself to like practice and practice, like Heather B would tell me,
Mm.
just put in the work and practice before you even think you're ready to go out there and take a shot at it. You got to be able to practice because some people go out there and just flop because they didn't put in the practice to prepare for it.
100%. And I think it's, when you're navigating in that way, and you're moving in a way where you're leading with your heart, you prepare yourself. You sort of subconsciously prepare yourself for some of that rejection, because you do ultimately end up encountering rejection along the way, whether it be you're applying to jobs, whether it be you're trying to establish connections and build relationships with, people that are levels and levels above you. um yeah, you're gonna get some no's. You're gonna get left on red sometimes. You're gonna get a hard no, where someone's not even gonna hear you out. But I think that when you're leading with your heart and you're navigating these spaces from a place of, just being a human being, then you prepare yourself for some of that rejection because you've already identified what your passions are, and that's what you're working towards.
Exactly. And speaking on working on your passion, could you discuss how creating your supportive community can improve mental well-being and how digital spaces can provide a sense of belonging within your community?
So when you say building my supportive community, is there a specific community that you're referencing, or?
Mainly like the community that you built within like the citizens of Sway in the Morning and anyone within the Shade 45 community.
Well, to that end, I would say that yes, the citizenship is, first of all, I can't take a ton of credit for building this because it's something that was built by Sway and the wonderful team at Sway in the Morning, right? So
Right.
the citizenship was a living, breathing organism way before I started listening to the show, which I've been listening to the show now. I think this next year, 2025, will be my diamond year, my 10 years that I've been listening to the show. But the community was already there before I even started listening to the show. I think that what what's beginning to happen with the citizenship is a highly coordinated effort that is taking place behind the scenes, with myself, Louis from People Making Progress, Terry from LA. We got other folks who have started coming into the fold, like my man Big Bear is everywhere. He's from New York. We got a gentleman by the name of Justin Jackson, who I believe you had on your show. He's from Milwaukee, I believe, and it's starting to coalesce in a different way now, where we've begun to communicate as a group, and my hope is that we're able to continue that cohesion and continue to coordinate our efforts in a way where we grow it, where we bring in as many folks who are part of the citizenship as possible. I'm out here trying to identify everyone, and just bring everybody in. And to that end, it has been hugely supportive because we got a lot of folks in there who are able to be there as a support, and it's exactly what Sway and the team, what the intention was behind it was for there to be a network of citizens to be a support for each other, regardless of what it is, whether it be an emotional, mental support, whether it be somebody's got a business and they're looking for a graphic designer, and they're able to network and support each other in that way. It's really the intention is for it to be a place for us to help each other build, right? And be a support for each other. So in that way, yes, we've been there for each other and during times of struggle and strife, and in moments of celebration as well.
Also, for those who don't know, from the Sway in the Morning show, they also have a podcast called Rap Dads.
Mm.
And I was wondering if you could speak on the importance of representation and on sharing stories can help fathers feel seen, understood, and supported within that podcast.
Yeah. Shout out to the Rap Dad Show. Shout out to Esteban Serrano. Good friend. A relationship that I'm very grateful that has sprouted up and blossomed over the course of this year. Um, as far as the importance of representation, the entire mission of the Rap Dad Show in general is to correct the narrative around Black and brown fathers, right? I think the big stereotype out there is that we're a bunch of deadbeat dads, and that we're not showing up for our kids, or we're not being responsible fathers, and I think that couldn't be further from the truth. And I think that we're learning that in a number of ways, not just through the Rap Dad Show, but through a lot of other platforms that are out there that are speaking on this very topic. So there's the Rap Dad Show, there's Good Dad Gang, which is founded by Terminology, and then there's Fatherhoods, which is the podcast with DJ Effin, right, from Drink Champs. So uh collectively, I think that there's even beyond those podcast platforms, there's also organizations out there that are working to drive this point home as well. So I think that the voice of the collective is beginning to uh throw its stake in the ground in terms of flipping that narrative. And yeah, I love seeing it. I love seeing it, and it's great to be a small part of it.
Yes, sir. And could you highlight the mental health benefits of meaningful connections and the role of empathy in effective community building?
Wow. Um, can you repeat that? That's a dope question. I like the way you worded it.
Yeah. Highlight the mental health benefits of
Uh-huh.
meaningful connections and the role of empathy in effective community building.
Yes, yes. Okay. So the first part of that is the mental health benefits. There's it's no secret that especially um during COVID, even after COVID, maybe one of the hugest side effects of COVID. But I think even before COVID hit, we were beginning to be afflicted by this just because of social media, and our relationship with technology in general. Is there's an epidemic of loneliness that has afflicted humanity. And I don't just mean that as hyperbole. That's like a scientific fact that we are currently experiencing an epidemic of loneliness, which is ironic given how connected we are, how much of a technology has connected us. But again, we our relationship with it hasn't been the healthiest one, and our mental health has suffered because of it. So I think that someone like me who works in community management as their career, as a professional, as a community professional, it's my job to ensure that people are coming together and that they're doing so in as safe and as healthy of a way as possible. So when I think of digital communities, and I think I made a point about this when called into to Sway earlier this year to talk about the citizenship and what our plans were for it, our hopes and our dreams were for it. Um, that I wouldn't recommend building community on social media. You can definitely host a community as a Facebook group, and there's plenty of communities that exist as such, or a LinkedIn group. But that's not something that as a community professional I would recommend, because I think that in order for you to have the kind of community that will support mental health and give you mental health benefits, like just knowing that you have a support system there that's filled with other people that can relate to the problems that you're going through. And this is where I kind of answer the question, right? It's like you experience those mental health benefits when you have individuals that you can relate to, right? That you're not alone in going through whatever it is that you're going through, struggle, strife, or the highs and the lows. You know what I'm saying? So when you have people that you can relate to, you don't feel as alone, and that epidemic of loneliness begins to break down because we start to feel connected in a more meaningful way. It's not just, oh, we're all here because we all listen to Sway in the morning. It's no, we're all here because we all listen to Sway in the morning, and we happen to be vulnerable enough and comfortable enough with each other to be sharing of ourselves with each other in such a way that we can reciprocate that, right? And you don't always get the luxury of facilitating that kind of experience in a healthy way when you're just on social, because it's just there's so much noise there, and it's the social media landscape has reached critical mass in terms of the levels of toxicity that exist there. So that's part one. You're gonna have to repeat part two of that question for me about empathy, right?
The role of empathy in effective community building.
Yeah. So I mean that's I kind of touched on this in the first answer, but empathy is not about feeling sorry for someone, right? It's not sympathy. It's about being able to put yourself in that other person's shoes,
Right.
right? So empathy is hugely important in that, because if you're not able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, then you're already cutting yourself off from ever being able to relate to them, or them being able to relate to you, right? Because you're not even trying. So it's like you kind of need empathy as in order to be an effective community member, let alone a community builder. So yeah, hugely important.
Exactly. And that's one thing that I said this in past episodes as well, that that's the main goal that I want with this podcast as well. Like the reason I call it Sanity and Symphony is because I know like within music, people find a connection with that artist through their lyrics because they might have said something that they could resonate to within their life. And if they see that this artist was able to overcome all those things and he's able to express it openly on music like this way, then I can do the same thing, you know? And the
Mm.
same thing I learned through listening to Sway in the morning for like a year. My first year listening to Sway, I learned the domino effect that they have on the listeners and the callers, including myself. Um,
Absolutely.
Hearing like one person say, "I went through a divorce," or "I'm having child issues," like the mother gets more time than I do, or anything going on in life. And then the
Yeah.
next caller be like, "Man, I'm going through the same exact thing," and they just said that they overcame all that and they're doing good in life, and that means I can do the same thing, you know?
Yeah, I think that, in addition to being a huge support for their community, for our community, the Sway in the Morning team is also helping us out even beyond that at this point. It's no exaggeration when I tell you that they are literally saving lives. Um, when that when that group gets together, um it becomes more than just a radio show. It becomes a conduit for the grace of God, in my opinion. And in addition to being out there as a support and saving lives in the impactful way that they do, I think they're also helping us out a little bit with our emotional intelligence, right? Like they in discussing a lot of the topics that end up being discussed on the show. I think they really help us out in how we reason when it comes to certain things, and how we respond to certain inputs, in terms of our emotional intelligence. And I think they're helping us mature in a lot of ways. So salute to them again for that. It's great stuff.
It's true. I can say some of the things that they've said on air, any advice that they would give the listeners, I would take word and do some self-reflecting on myself and realize, I could have changed a lot of things in the past if I would have handled it differently and not react based on emotions, and
Right.
more based
Right.
on logic or just common sense.
Yep. Yep. 100%. Same here.
But speaking on that as well though, could you share any ways of your coping strategies, managing stress and navigating the ups and downs during your digital career?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I would say on the professional side of the fence, um, you have to You definitely have to have that emotional intelligence piece, because it will get to difficult moments, especially if you're seeking to get into the line of work that I'm in. Community management is definitely a viable career path that's been around for at least the past 15 to 20 years, but we're still struggling to gain our footing in the professional world. And I think part of the reason that is because I mean, think about where marketing was 20, 25, 30 years ago. Um, there was a time where marketing wasn't even a department within an organization in a company, right? So with community management being a digital marketing tool, it's definitely falls under that umbrella. Depending on the company, you'll find community management either under marketing or customer support, depending on the company. But you'll have companies out there that will have community management teams that are siloed. They have their own department and they have uh levels, career path levels that go all the way up to the C-suite. There are companies out there that have a chief community officer. Um so what I would say is the reason that we still struggle to gain our footing in the professional world at this point is that even though a lot of companies, most companies in 2024 know that they need a community team, and forget it, in five to 10 years from now, you'll see that explode even more. Um, it still gets a little bit weird, right? When there's an economic downturn, if there's a recession, if budgets are tightening up, um, soon as shit gets weird, community is one of the first roles to go. Uh, and I think that unfortunately, in today's landscape, a lot of companies, they know that they need community, they just don't know why, or they're not really ready to double down on their investment in community. Um, and to, not gonna make no bones about it, but a lot of companies, rather than seeking to effectively execute on community management, they seek to exploit it for revenue generation and growth. And that is where community goes to die. So if you're one of those companies that's only seeking to chase the bag, and secure the bag at the expense of your customers and building a meaningful and authentic relationship with your customers, then chances are they're going to be able to tell that, in 2024, in the age of the savvy consumer, that's something that your customers will be able to tell, and you'll lose them as a result of that. So it can be definitely frustrating as a community manager trying to build that career. But if you really love it, if you have a passion for it, you persevere, you find a way. Um, and then as far as the personal side of things in terms of uh managing stress and mental health, um, for me personally, the past almost 2 years has been an unprecedented level of stress in my personal life. But I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is like know when to slow down. And I still struggle with it, but I've been forced to learn how to do it better, because if not, you just kind of put yourself in a position where you're going to eventually crash and burn out. So yeah, I would say knowing when to slow down, even though we live in a world where everybody's like go, go, go 24/7. And especially if you're building a career in the digital space, that's a 24/7 operation. Um, yeah, take that time to slow down and know that, even though the universe continues to spin without you, it'll continue to spin whether you're pounding the pavement and running yourself into the ground or not.
That's true. And I think Heather B has mentioned before when she came back from her trip that you got to be willing to take time to like put you first, prioritize your mental health, your overall health in general. Get more sleep. Take time to have a spa day for yourself. Just anything to get your mind off of everything, and just work on your well-being. Because
Yeah.
like you said, like we're in that mindset of we need to be working 24/7 if we want to grow and succeed and go bigger places in life. But we also have to take the time, like you said, to just self-reflect or just step away from everything and relax for a little bit.
Yeah, or even just rest,
Yeah.
Self-care doesn't always have to look like going out and getting your nails done or getting a spa day or something like that. It can just mean literally doing nothing. Um, and yeah, we definitely all need that, right? It's like it's the you can't pour from an empty cup, the whole like airplane oxygen mask metaphor, that whole thing for sure.
Yes, sir. And do you have any advice for any aspiring community managers in the future, based off of like your experiences and like any mistakes that you might have made in the past that you took as a learning lesson?
The biggest thing that I always say when it comes to advice to people considering a career in community management is don't take any experience for granted in terms of like, oh, this is an experience that doesn't have anything to do with community management. I think the thing that I love seeing the most when I look at my colleagues or people who pivot into the community management space is the different walks of life that everyone comes from. I've seen people be teachers that pivot into community management, and I've seen people that are like improv actors pivot into community management. And that's the thing I love about it so much is that we don't realize that we are naturally programmed as human beings to gravitate towards community. You, regardless of whether you've worked professionally or not as a community manager, you're either a part of a community or you're building a community yourself. You just don't realize that you're doing it, right? So it's, you know, don't take for granted that any skills that you've had before pivoting into it professionally speaking will exclude you or preclude you from, pivoting into that career path, because as a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. A lot of the skill sets that you've built up are the exact skill sets that are transferable into this career path and that are going to help you hit the ground running. So don't take any experience that you've had for granted or think that it's not significant.
That's true. There are some opportunities where some people will feel like, man, this might not benefit me in any way in the future, or it won't get me anywhere. But it, you never know, and sometimes it might in the future. And I'd say there's been some times I've been in that position where I've been offered some like volunteer opportunities and I felt like it wasn't useful. But then again, it could look good on your resume for anyone who's looking through your resume and looking to hire you. They want to know why you're a possible good representative for their company. And seeing that you're willing to put your foot out there and be versatile and take all these opportunities, that might look good on you.
Yeah, 100%. When I talk about building community around things like Sway in the Morning and the Rap Dad Show, when I talk about that stuff on LinkedIn, people are like mind blown by it. They're like, "Oh, wow, building community around a podcast. Like I never thought about that before." So it's really interesting to see how different circles of groups of folks in the professional world sort of view community management. It's an interesting career path for sure.
Share your experience on when you got to participate during the live Control Destroy.
Oh yeah, man, that was fun, dude. It was I think we were heading into town. It was me and Retro were gonna be linking up. I think this was around the time that PRS Fest was gonna happen. Unfortunately, it got postponed to next year. So um we'll have to regroup on that. But yeah, so we spoke to Tone. We let him know that we'd be in town. We were like, yo, we want to do like a real battle royale, Tweens versus the Wolves on a Friday, because Friday is always testing the Tweens day and give me a sec. So it was dope, man. It was fun. We had I think that day it was Russell Peters came up to the studio. He did the Rumble mix. Who else was there? Bizarre from D12 was there. Um, Gosh, there was a couple of other. Lord Finesse was in there. Yeah, it was a fun time, man. It's always fun listening to that show. I love the fact that D always holds space for all of us regulars like yourself, myself, Retro, AI Ed, all these guys. Um, yeah, he's just a dope dude. I have so much love for that guy. Forget it. I could talk about him all day, but it was a wonderful experience, man, being up there and just getting to hang with them. It was hilarious, man. It was fun. It was just fun the whole time.
Imagine, man. And what was it like meeting Bazaar? Did you get to get any gems from him or ask him anything?
Nah, man, he was as he I think D catches a lot of people off guard when he engages them in conversation and Bizarre seems like he's gotten to a place in his career where he's maybe a little bit more tame than he once was. He seems to have calmed down a little bit, where someone as animated as D was like cracking him up. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Bizarre was super gracious. I got to introduce myself to him and say hello and stuff like that. And yeah, man, he was just super gracious dude. Super, super gracious dude.
That's dope, man. And like you said about him like being more tame now, I think that just runs. I'm pretty sure a lot has to do with Eminem getting sober. Just leading an example that you can overcome that dark past of having a drug addiction or alcohol addiction, anything like that, and just being able to overcome it for all those years and be strong enough mentally to become sober and stay consistently sober for all these years. So I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure a lot of that has to do with him probably helping him behind the scenes.
I agree. I agree, man. When you come from a group that made a track called Purple Pills, you know, and you're still hanging out in 2024, there's definitely a lot to be grateful for, and I'm sure that a lot of lessons learned along the way. So
No
yeah,
doubt.
I totally agree with you.
Yes, sir. And is there anything you wanted to share with listeners in closing?
Nah, man. Let's see. Just thank you for having me. Continued success with your show. I wish you nothing but the best. You're gonna have to return the favor and be on my show because I have a podcast coming up soon too.
Sure.
Shameless plug. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, just continue working towards your passions. Wishing you all the success in the world, and my door is always open to you. And to anyone else who might be listening, if anybody wants to reach out, I'm Jersey City Jeff on all the things, but mostly Instagram.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate all those words. It means a lot to me. And one last thing, I usually ask all my guests at the end, is there any artist, that one artist in any genre of music that you resonated the most with and why?
um, the one artist. I listen to a lot of music, so it's hard to name just one.
Hmm.
But I think based on some of I'm not sure if you send out your survey with every episode.
Hmm.
But I know with the first couple of ones, there was a survey where you were asking questions like this. And I think the one that I filled out, I'm a really big fan of the band Incubus. They're an alternative rock band that, was really popping in the late 90s, early 2000s, but they're still doing it. They're still cooking to this day. Um, and yeah, I their music is like the soundtrack to my life. There's something about their music that both sonically and lyrically resonates with me very deeply. And their music ranges in topics, from love to social issues to just life. They're a deep band, lyrically, especially lyrically. I think that a lot of what inspires them, just going back to an old interview I remember them doing on MTV back in the day. uh I think a lot of the lyrical content comes from a place of humanity trying a little bit harder and sort of reprogramming a programmed society, that kind of thing. So yeah, on that level, I definitely, yeah, they're one of my faves for sure.
No doubt. And that concludes another episode of Sanity and Symphony Podcast here with your host, Official Insanity, and my special guest, Jersey City Jeff. And we'll
All
catch you
right.
guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.